going on? Hey, uh, we get started here. I just looked around for my water and I don't have my water. I am unprepared. Ill prepared for this stream. Where is my It's in the other room. Everybody chill, I'll be right back. All right. All right. People were asking about that Ginny Hex cover. That was a treat. Getting to work with Nick was a treat because he usually colors his own stuff, or Tamara usually colors him. But I guess she was busy, and I swooped in and I got to work with him. It was super fun. Would love to work with Nick again. He's a good dude. All right, so we're working on some Spider-Man 2099 today. Before we get started, just wanted to say thanks for watching the previous stream. The previous stream was we were just going over flats, so there's not a lot of coloring information in there, but it's good if you need a refresher on what flats are and what they do and how I set up pages, that sort of thing. I'm going to make a little video about how to set up your pages to get started in like a slower way. Like I had a couple questions from some people about slowing it down a little in that beginning stage, and I can definitely do that. I can definitely do that for you. So that's going to be something that I want to do at some point this week. And speaking of this week, I'm also on Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. On this channel, we're going to be playing some Klonoa, Namco's softest boy. We're going to be hanging out with him and the Boyks, and we're both going to be playing Klonoa. I'm going to be playing Klonoa 2 on the PS2. He's going to be playing Klonoa 1 on his hacked PS Mini. So yeah, but we'll get into this right now. There we are. Okay, so this is where we left the flats. An Eagle Eye viewer, Fake McCoy, said in the Discord, he was like, he said that he was looking at Spider-Man's butt like too much, almost too much, and he was like, I think that this is part of the bike. So I checked the original page and it was not colored as part of the bike. However, I think it was supposed to be hacked PS Mini. Note of disapproval. No way. No way. Play games any way you can play them. But I think he's right. I think that the original colors were a little wrong. So we're going to fix this right here. I don't have a good way to play PlayStation 1 games right now. I'm waiting on the PlayStation 1 core on the Mister to like come out of beta. That's what I'm waiting on. Did I just deselect that? How did that deselect? All right, I think that's what it's supposed to look like in the original. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is just duplicate the flat layer because I want to preserve it, and I'm going to lock it down here. We have a lot of locked layers over here. If you need a refresher on any of this stuff, previous episode went over everything on here, including this, which is the lettering. Okay, and we can label all these panels, breaks, flats. All right. Yeah, I had a PS1 back in the day, but didn't really get into the library that much. Like, never really clicked with me. And then I played a little bit of PS1 stuff on my Raspberry Pi, and then I gave away my Raspberry Pi for the Mister when the PS1 core was coming out. So I actually haven't played a whole lot of PS1 stuff, even though like it has a whole vibe and look now that people really love. All right, so in order to get started, we're just going to select all the figures. We're not even going to think about the background yet. We're just going to select all the figures, which I believe we've done except for the new stuff that we just added right here. I believe these are all the figures. Yeah. So we're just going to deselect the lighter parts. And this is how I usually approach a page. I'll do everything all at once. And again, like I was saying before with like washing the dishes, this is also like washing the dishes. Just like figuring this stuff out, exactly where to make the deselections. If you've watched this stream before, like a lot of the other pinups and stuff, I do the exact same way. This is just like on a larger scale because it's a page. One of the advantages of doing it this way for the whole page is that you get consistency across the whole page. And I'll even do this, like, I worked on a Batman Zatanna flashback today. That was like a 3-page scene. And since I knew those 3 pages went together, I was like, oh, and I was like, working on them today. I knew that I was going to get them all done. I was like, we'll just work on them as a group, like across the board. Because it's kind of easier for consistency that way. I know when you're building a portfolio, it's not necessarily, you're not like doing a ton of consistency between pages. You're not really worried about that stuff. But I know editors really care about that stuff once you get into the nitty gritty of like working the job. So yeah, we're just gonna get in here, and I'm not worried about like changing the colors that we put down yet. We're gonna get into that once we get like a good amount of these shadows in. And you can do this in any way that you want to do this. The reason that I do it this way, so alternatively, you could do it in a way where you're like, I'm gonna. This is the Miguel O'Hara Appreciation Society channel. Absolutely, 100%. How's it going, Bernardo? Yeah, best Spider-Man, 100%. You could do like, I'm gonna work on the helmets and put the shadows in, and then I'm gonna work on the jackets and put the shadows in. I'm gonna work on the bikes and put the shadows in. But like, when you do it that way, you're creating a lot of steps. And this way, hopefully, we can do basically everything all at once. The whole idea is like, I don't want to spend, when I do a page for real in the real life, I want to do it as like, as I want it to be as good looking as possible. I also want it to be as efficient as possible. Rather sign up for the Ravage Appreciation channel. I bought a lot of Ravage books. The pandemic hit, and we were all in a weird headspace. So like, let's just get that out of the way. And I bought a lot of Ravage books. I don't know why I did that, but I definitely did do. The government sent me a check, and I was like, I know, Ravage books, Ravage 2099. Finally. I'm not a smart man. So anyway, this way we kind of do, we work the same way we work the flats, very, very general to very, very specific. And right now we're working very general. We're just like putting in, all we're thinking about is like, where does the light and shadow go? If we were going to do one rendering. And I'll get into this in a little bit, but this is kind of how I started my whole career. Like, I didn't do a whole lot more than what you're going to see on stream today on like the first books that I colored. And speaking of those first books I colored, Mike Oming has been tweeting pre-Powers stuff. We did a book called Cross Bronx, uh, and he's been tweeting pages from it, and I'm like, dude, this is from like 2000 and like five. Like, please stop sharing this. And then Scott Wagner, he started tweeting some Atomic Robo stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, guys, please. That was like 7 years ago. I'm so much better now. I look at those pages and I'm like, we got to right some wrongs. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll go back and right some of those wrongs. Smarter than the guy who committed fraud to take out a COVID loan to buy a first edition Charizard. I don't know, man. That Charizard. You know what? I have a tweet in my Twitter. You can go back. You search Nick Filardi Charizard, and I was like, "Who's paying this money for Pokemon cards? It's ridiculous. It's like trading a Charizard for a brand new M2 competition BMW." But like, that's kind of how the world works now, which is upsetting a little, a little. But at the time, it was like early pandemic, and I'm like, this is absurd. And now we just live in this absurd place. Just absolutely ridiculous, like nerd finance. Should have put all our money into Charizards. Ravage did not pay off, by the way. I don't think those went up at all. uh, I was trying to fill out. Got to render the butt. Uh, that's what people are here for. That Spidey butt. I was trying to fill out the rest of my 2099 collection. Get all the pieces that I didn't have, because I was like, they're never gonna collect this stuff, and now they're starting to collect this stuff. So you know what? Not a smart man. Again, I'm a colorist. I'm a good colorist, but I'm not a smart man. So yeah, I'm stoked to play Klonoa in 2 days on Thursday with the boys. I've been like thinking about playing Klonoa since they announced it for the Nintendo Switch. Even though they're announcing a remake, I actually the first remake on the Wii. The game came out for the PS1. They remade it for the Wii. Now they're remaking it again, and I played it on the Wii, and I was like, "This is okay," but I didn't have the focus to really enjoy it, like, because apparently it escalates in a really meaningful way, um, and really purposeful and interesting way, and I did not have the focus. I was too busy playing Call of Duty at the time. Owning a Wii and playing Call of Duty. That was what I did. Certainly didn't play that way. Um, so I'm actually looking forward to getting into it with Boyks tomorrow. He is Klonoa is like a blind spot that I always like was like I'm gonna play that eventually. So it'll be fun. One of the things that we're going to try to keep in mind with this piece is that these pages are very busy, and we want to try to uh, make the figures as separate from the background as possible. But we're also going to like do up the background quite a bit. If you search on my YouTube, I did the opening double page spread. We did that in the series of like 4 or 5 videos, and like I was looking at that page and I was like, I think I've learned a few things since then. That was like I think 5 years ago. I'm not sure. It was a long time ago. Um, Maybe we could revisit it. I don't know. We'll see. So this bike has like this speed line. You can't see when I gesture across the screen. It has like a speed line thing going this way. So we're gonna try to lean into that a little bit with like the coloring, especially when we get to like the actual like nitty gritty coloring. When we get into like fine detail stuff, but yeah, we're gonna try to keep that in mind while we're working. I was just watching a thing about cryptids today, and it made me want to get back into the old cryptid stuff. I'm running out of I'm running out of like Game Boys and stuff to work on. So because of that, I'm like, oh, I should start drawing again. I should really get on that. Start working those cryptids again. So like we're cutting into this like webbing here. Um, we don't have to worry about that because we can just select it again. Like, boom. I don't know exactly how we're gonna work this webbing because it's kind of like just a kind of an odd abstract shape, and I think we're gonna end up making it try to feel like transparent anyway. I don't know exactly how the hell we're gonna do that, but we're gonna try to do that. That'll be like probably right at the end. And like you can see, when I was starting, I worked on a book called Godland, not God Hand. I think it was God Hand. No, Godland. No, something like that. Anyway, it was a very Kirby inspired book. This was a long time ago, very very early in my career, and very Kirby inspired. It had like a lot of piping and stuff, and I was in there in the weeds, like making sure every single pixel of every single piping like looked perfect. And as you can see now, I am not that person anymore, and I don't think you need to be either. Like, as long as you get relatively close with some of the rendering, you can you've got room to breathe. There's a margin of error, and you got to feel it out. This is something that is a learned ability of just like I've worked X amount of pages. I've worked 10 pages. I don't know where that line is. I've worked 100 pages, and I'm figuring out where that like what that margin of error is. And it's like I've worked 1,000 pages, and like I think I got it. And I've worked 20,000 pages, and I'm like, oh, now I'm really really keyed in on it. It's one of those kinds of things. Just comes from experience. You have to go through that rendering every pipe and like killing yourself before you're like, oh, I don't have to do this. Like I can gesture it in. Um, how did I start landing jobs? Uh, yeah, I can tell you how I started landing jobs. So when I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, and as I was finishing Savannah, I was like kind of panicked because it was a lot of student loans, and uh, I did not have like this was also mid 2000s, and like web comics were like starting to be a thing, but they weren't quite there yet, and like indie comics were a thing, but they were not a thing that I wanted to do. Like the way the indie comic book scene and what was hot in the indie comic book scene was like um autobiographical comics and things like that, like super emotional stuff. Indie comics from back then, I don't know if you've ever gone back and read some of them. They are some navel gazing, like just like self indulgent. Oh God, they're hard to read. Like just just comics. really wanted to be literature, really wanted to be taken seriously, and you can feel that desperation in indie comics. And I was like, these are, I was like reading them and enjoying them, but I was like, this is not where I live, you know? Graduate before, during, after, they're still like that. I mean, depends on what you're reading now. Nick, indie comics suck. No, see, here's the thing: is like indie comics are fantastic now. Like, you look at there's a lot of creators that I follow that I'm like, I don't know why these guys aren't like freaking mega stars. Like, I don't know, they just don't market themselves well or put out enough work or whatever. Like, Jordan, I'm shocked at how much Jordan Crane original art goes for because he is so freaking good. Um, anyway, we're on an indie comic tangent, and I would argue that right now indie comics are the best they've ever been. Um, there's so much good stuff out there, and there's I think part of it is that the indie comic scene has expanded from weirdo white guys to just weirdos. And now that it's an umbrella of weirdos of all different creeds and cultures and whatever, it's been like a really great, um, just a really like great pull for books. You know, like I would say that Spike Trotman, I believe is her name, is was an instrumental force in making indie comics very very good and interesting. I backed her and filled out this survey just recently for her Native American uh, legends book that she's put together. I'm like, hell yeah, let's do this thing. Anyway, I also started reading manga lately. I feel like that's in my brain more than it did when I was like getting out of school. Anyway, the point is that I was getting out of school, and you've only run into the snobby. Oh man, that sucks. I don't know what to tell you. Uh, I don't talk to a lot of these cool indie people. Uh, I mostly talk to uh, mainstream people because that's where I do all my networking, and those are the people that I end up working with. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't speak to that. I don't know if they're snobby or not. The ones that I've met a handful of times have been very very nice. Um, anyway, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do indie comics, and web comics do not pay. And this was the thing too, is like, if I was doing indie comics or web comics, or there you go, DLX artist right there. What do you do, DLX artist? Where can people find your indie stuff? Um, I would say also Charlie Stickney. I don't know if I might have butchered his name right then. Um, writes. Why am I blanking on every title right now? Stabby Bunny through Scout Comics. Cool. Um, I White Thorn, White White something, White Ash, White Ash. Got there. I got there. His book's very very good, and he's in the Discord every once in a while. Um, and he is not snobby at all. Anyway, I also was looking down at like indie comics, and I was like, as a potential road to go down, and I was like, well, if I work really hard, I might be able to afford my student loan payments in 10 years. Like maybe in 10 years, and I really grind it out, eventually I'll be able to afford my student loan payments. And so I was like, well, that's not going to work. And I was like, what's my most marketable skill for, you know, comic books? Like mainstream comic books that will pay me money. And coloring was it. So I was like, you know what? We're going to lean into this. My last year there, I put together a portfolio. Um, and just started putting it under the nose of every single person I possibly could. Uh, you're in the Pacific Northwest where they equate it with punk and grunge and DIY. I mean, I love punk, grunge, and DIY though, but I can understand how those scenes can get really clicky. Anyway, um, so I was just showing the portfolio to as many people as possible. I showed some stuff to an editor at Dark Horse. They were like, "Hey, this stuff is actually pretty good." This was just like at a show, um, and it was just uh, I had met them um, the night before at the bar or whatever. Just like bumped into them, just chatted them up, uh, and they were like, "Oh, come around and let me see some of your work tomorrow." I was like, "All right." Uh, saw them, showed them my work. They were like, "This stuff's really good. Send it over to our color editor, Kara Neese. Uh, Here's her card. Send some samples." So I sent samples in. Um, didn't really hear anything. Didn't end up working at Dark Horse for like another 10 years. Still like barely work at Dark Horse. I don't know. I always like want to work on more Dark Horse stuff, and uh, I don't know why I'm just like not on their radar, even though I have done Dark Horse stuff. It's weird. It's weird how you fall into these places. Anyway, the point is that so I did sent these emails, put together this portfolio, and then there was actually a color like studio in town, Xylenol, and the guy who run it was Lee Lowridge, and he was a professional colorist. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna bring my portfolio in just so that he can see it and like tell me if I'm doing anything like really wrong. If I'm like, you know, should I not put this page in? Is this too long? Things like that. Like it was the first time I was like really sending my portfolio off like after sending like having a conversation with somebody, getting recommended. So I was like, it wasn't just showing it at a show. It was like they're going to spend time with it, like they're going to take a look at it at work. So I was like, I didn't want to make any mistakes. So I went in and I said, hey, can you take a look at this, like tell me what you think. And he was like, looks good, put my name on it if it helps you. Didn't help me. And then like 4 months later, Lee Lowridge like called me and was like, hey, come out to lunch with the studio. I was like, okay. Got out of bed because I was asleep, and met him and the rest of the studio for lunch, and he was like, hey, do you want to come work? And I said, sure. Coloring? And he was like, no, 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 we're going to start you doing flats. So I started doing flats because I was still in school, and I was like, this is flexible. I can come in whenever I want, do as many pages as I can. And then, I was still taking out student loans and stuff. Uh, yeah, he's very, very chill. He's a good dude. I like him a lot. Um, some people in the industry find him a little abrasive. I find him hilarious. Uh, there are not really studios like that. This story doesn't help anyone. All right, so we have most of our shadows for these guys. Let's just quickly talk about this thing, and we'll get back to the story. Uh, I'm just gonna take this dark gray. Here it is 75, 50, 40. We're just gonna fill it. We got it on a new layer here. I don't usually put it in a layer. You know what? Actually, let's not put it in a layer. I don't usually do this. What am I doing? We're just gonna fill it. We're gonna do a multiply, like 65% is where we're gonna start. Um, we are also going to drop an alpha channel. So I wanted to preserve the selection that we made. So this is the selection that we made of that we just made of everything on the page. So all we're worried about that is light and shadow. We're just worried about like, how the light is going to hit all these bikes and stuff. We're not worried about the color at all. And we're going to do the same thing for the background. So we're going to select everything and then deselect the dudes and the bikes and Spider-Man. We are also going to deselect the sky because we're not going to be working with that stuff. I think this is the only panel with sky in it. Right? I guess this as well. I'm going to block this out on the alpha channel as well. Just like a 30% gray here. So that we can kind of separate. We can keep figures, light and dark figure stuff separate from the light and dark background stuff. And we can get into this. So yeah. So he asked me to come do some work. And then I shamelessly piggybacked on his name. And when I kept going to shows. I kept going to Comic Cons, and I'd be like, "Oh, I work with Lee Larridge," and people would be like, "Oh, lovely," or people would be like, "Oh, that asshole," and then I'd be like, "See you later." But yeah, so I basically started going to shows like that, and then so that got me, even though I wasn't like doing any color work, that got me taken a little more seriously as a creator. And then he helped a few most important comic book pages, and definitely saved our bacon. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, he cranks out work, by the way. There were times where I would see him in the studio. He'd be working on something, and he has like a plan of attack. And sometimes I feel like he just like, man, I don't know. I wish I could crank out work as quickly as he does. I'd watch him finish a page in like 30 minutes, like no problem. Um, I belabor things and I sweat stuff, and I don't know. I don't have the confidence that he does. Um, all right, so we're gonna do the same thing we were doing before, just kind of like making selections. Uh, at any rate, so I started like tossing his name around, and then uh, kind of stopped bringing portfolios around. Still brought him around a little, but his name was enough that people would kind of like take me seriously without seeing a portfolio. And by this point, I've been going to shows for like 3 years straight, pretty much, 3 or 4 years, and so I started like knowing people, like I started like getting to know like other people. So they would see me and they'd be like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'd be like, "Oh, nothing." Like could shoot the shit, and they'd be like, "You still looking for work?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm still looking." They're like, "All right, if I hear anything, like I'll let you know." And usually nothing happens from that, but like every once in a while, like something will happen. And then so I got out of school, right? And I was like flatting, and then Lee decided the studio, like having the physical space, maintaining all the computers, all that stuff was like basically not worth it for him. Which I totally understand. Like I couldn't imagine like renting out space for other people to like come in and do flats. That's like bonkers to me. Um, so basically he shut it down, and then I was like, well, shit, like this was my whole plan. Like now what do I do? So I left Savannah, um, and I just was like, I will color anything, and like lived with my dad, and just like I did one book, I think, for $60 a page, and I did one book for nothing. Did 12 issues for absolutely nothing, just did it. Um, and it turns out I'm still working with like all of those people 15, 20 years later. Uh, they're like still good friends. One of those people was Annie McDonald. We just did the Wonder Woman annual together. Like, that's like bonkers that we were doing these little indie books, and now we're doing the Wonder Woman annual. So it was just like, uh, and I would take those comics and I'd be like, look for more work and talk to editors and be like, oh, I worked on this, I worked with these people, I worked with that person, and they'd be like, oh, I know that person, and it just kind of like started branching out, not quickly. It still took a solid 4 years from that point to like start to make a livable wage where I wasn't like constantly struggling, but quick enough that I was like, oh, I'm onto something. Like, this isn't just gonna fail. Um, yeah, and that's kind of how I networked it. The problem you're having with your friends who are still in the beginning of their careers is COVID killed all the cons and festivals. Yeah, for going on 3 years now, so you haven't got a chance to meet anyone or build an audience. I hear that. Uh, my advice for you would be to just be like jamming social media like it is a con. Like, I know it's not the same thing. I know it's not the same thing, but I would also try to be like, all right, I'm gonna make work. Like, let's make work. You know, and it was, man, it was tough to. I felt like I was just trudging through molasses at the beginning of the pandemic. Um, it threw off my whole thing, my whole shit. I was like doing regular drawing and like hanging out, and the pandemic just really wiped me out. Like, just felt awful. Anyway, the point is that I get that the pandemic sucks, and I get that wiping out shows. I'm just starting to be like, maybe I should go to a show again. I was thinking about going to Charlotte Comic Con, Heroes Con, but not tabling. I think I might just go and hang out and like check it out. You haven't gotten a chance to meet anyone or build an audience. Yeah, I built a website, sell some comics through. I've sold a bunch of prints and stuff, but I haven't barely sold any comic books through the website. And I think part of it is that like, dude, it is like I'll hand sell a comic at a show very easily. That like, I will talk to a person, we'll shoot the shit, be like, what comics do you like? Oh, you might like this, flip through it, like buy it or don't, whatever. But like, I'll move books at shows. I cannot move a book on my website. I don't know what it is. And they're the same books. Being an Oz, social media is really your only access to international comics. Yeah, hoping to hit an international con in the future. I've pretty much made all my comic mates through social media and discords. Yeah, I mean, I I think that it is a tool. It is, it's tough because like you can't beat that in person, face to face, like saw you at a show, like let's hang out kind of thing. You can't beat it. However, like you can you can get a little bit of traction online. You just like, it's just a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You have to post basically constantly. Um, it's not the best, but it's something to use. Yeah, I try to. There's a couple Kickstarters in my Discord right now that I got to back. Um, I try to back as many, like, uh, when the pandemic hit, I was like, I'm gonna back every single Discord for comics or every single Kickstarter for comics that I come across. I'm just gonna back them all, because I know that like everybody out there is struggling, and it's especially hitting small creators hard. So that's what I did. I just started backing everything. And then I would like tweet it because I'd be like, I have a not a huge like following on Twitter, but like a little bit. And a lot of these people who aren't making comics that I was backing had like, 300 uh viewers. So I was like, here's 4,000 more eyeballs, like here you go. uh Franny mentioned Spike. She says social media has never landed her a job, contrary to her advice or her podcast. I mean, like, there's a weird thing. Uh, if you actually talk to people and share stuff, yeah. There's okay. So you managed to start working as a character designer for animation during the pandemic, from being only online through LinkedIn. Wild, wild. There was a hot second where like I felt like I was making really good work and knocking myself out in comics, but like getting all these kind of like crap gigs, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, and I was getting frustrated with comics. I feel like every creator goes through something like this. Um, and a buddy of mine who does animation was like, "Dude, just take our background test. Like, you do backgrounds. Just come work for us." And I was like, and that was like right before things started getting like a little better. Uh, yeah, Spike's on a different level than most people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, once you get kind of like uh, a level of success and you like build on it and build on it and build on it, it's tough to like. I'm telling you how I started, and it's like, oh, I walked into this studio and I showed my portfolio, and it's like that doesn't exist anymore. Like that can't. I can't help. That was probably like one of the last ones. Um, I mean, I wouldn't be so critical, Eric. I think that you say you have mixed feelings about what she says now, because she's like semi out of touch. I would just take everything with a grain of salt. No one's going to be able to be like, "Yo, this is how you do it. Follow these directions and go." And every single you talk to 10 creators about like how they broke in, you'll get 10 different stories. And so I really feel like you just gotta these guys, by the way, have like searchlights on, so we're gonna try to like really blow this out when we color it. um I mean, like, take her advice as a little grain of salt and like do it your way. This is also one of the things that I struggled with when I started doing comics, was like people would be like, do it like this, and I'd be like, yeah, 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 because I was a kid who like was really into feeling like if I followed the rules and I played by the rules, things would work. And like life is so much messier than that. I don't know. It's a weird thing getting started. If I was getting started now, I would try to focus on making as much as I could during the pandemic for when cons return, and then having a lot of stuff on the table. Be like, you know, set a goal of like two or three 20-page issues of something, like single issues of something, and then like a couple of like 10 stickers, a couple prints, stuff like that. Uh, that way, you kind of like when you do come back to shows, and shows are like a big deal, and they're doing shows now. Like, you can go to shows. Uh, then it's like, oh, we missed all these cars and stuff. Let's just real quick do this. That way you have something, and you're not like, oh, now that it's back, I'll let. And I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but like now you're like, now that it's back, now I can start. It's like, start now. Um, and if it doesn't have traction now, wait till you can start pushing it in front of people at shows, see what reaction you get, and then move from there. But like having that ready to go in the tank, like, or in the chamber, is like what you want. Um, 3 or 4 issues to, yeah, 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 exactly, Simon. Uh, Should have 3 or 4 issues on the table. Excellent. Honestly, seems like everyone's going a different path. Yeah, and the industry is just very chaotic, which is kind of a good thing. It's also like, it depends on what you want out of the industry as well. Like, if I do a little drawings, I'm just making sure that we don't have any character selections here. And we're just going to do the same thing. Fill with this gray. Multiply. Do like 65 again. But we are going to go over here to our alpha channel. We're just going to do like that. So, okay. We have kind of our light and shadow down. Now, when I colored comics, when I first started, this is kind of fitting because we're talking about like how I started my career. What I would do from here is like I would take, and I don't know if we're gonna stick with some of these colors in the background. We're gonna. This is a little different because I would try to make all the buildings the right color in midday or whatever. 17 issues. You've been busy, yeah, man. That's awesome. First image book this year too for you. I remember. That's rad. We're going to go into the alpha, select all the white space in the characters. So we're in all of these white spaces, and pardon me for just 1 second. I have to change because we're doing RGB. We're doing this for web. I got to brighten up my monitor just a little bit. I didn't want to show you guys my sick computer backgrounds. Let me catch up on chat real quick before we jump in. Forget who said it, but one creator said breaking into comics is like breaking into Fort Knox. Once you find a way in, they cover that opening and no one else breaks in. Yeah. Sounds like something Mark Wade. Somebody said it, described it, breaking into comics to me as it's like you're outside at like there's like an office building and you're on the sidewalk outside and you're looking in and it's all glass and you could see everybody in there and you're like, I want to be in there. And you get into a revolving door and you're like, I'm going to get into the party. And then you get spit back out. And you're like, I'm going to get in the party and you get spit back out. And then you like, eventually you're like, I'm going to figure out this revolving door. And then you get in for a little while and you get pushed back out. And I feel like it's like that. Breaking in is one thing. Staying in is a whole other game. Anyway. This is what I would do when I first started coloring. So I would do these one cut. We have selected basically the light side of all the characters on the screen right now, and I would take like a color and fill it. Take a color, fill it, fade it, just like a normal regular color. So we're just doing like a blue here. And we've kind of unified the palette that way. That sounds so sad. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to break in. The hard part is getting to do it on a steady basis. Yeah. You can sit down and make a comic book. Anybody can do it. But doing it as a living is the hard part. So we have now like done... we've got like this blue for all these characters. We've unified the palette with blue. Now, to get like these characters to pop from the back part of this image, we need to take like a different color and use that for the highlighted areas, these light grays. So then I would go in and be like, okay, I'm gonna take this yellow. Like we're doing cool warm, you know? Fill it. Fade it, and like we're getting close. Like this is starting to not look that bad. I mean, we got some kind of clown colors going on here with the buildings, but like largely, and like this stuff is not working. um, largely, like, we're starting to enter a uh, area where like the colors are starting to not be offensive. They're like slightly unified. There's, there's we got cool characters popping forward from warmer backgrounds, and from here I would kind of like um a lot of times I would just do whatever, like I'd noodle around until I was like, now I'm done, and like that was basically how I did a page. And I really feel like if you can do this, like we talked in the portfolio review for Steve, that one of his problems was he would noodle around a lot, and he wouldn't get like the greater scheming, color scheming down, and he would get stuck in the noodling. And doing it this way really makes you think about like, okay, well, like the backgrounds aren't really working as well as the foregrounds. Maybe we can figure those out. Uh, like maybe they need to be warmer, so we can warm them up. I don't know. And then it's like, well, let's make them darker at the top. You start to like do this in a very general way, uh, where you can kind of like figure out exactly how you want it. Um, and I mean, like, you don't even have to like get in here with the gradients. Like, I'm getting in here with a gradient because like I know this is kind of the direction that I want to go. Um, I kind of want to make it feel, it's 2099, so it's there's gonna be a lot of like lights and stuff, but the lights work best on darker backgrounds. So if we go very, very light, very, very quickly, then they're not going to look like they're lit up, kind of thing. Um, at any rate, I just get in here and start tweaking it, making whatever changes we need to make uh, as we were going, and we can, I wanted to get all these lights. We can select them on the flats layer all at once, go back to our layer we're working on. So we started here, we're ending up here, and kind of moving from there. Let me catch up on chat a little bit. I've heard you talk about like gatekeepers a lot, Eric. I feel like, I don't know. You can't worry about that stuff. Like, I know that it feels like there's people that are keeping you out. Um, but I think if you just make work and you just keep making work, that's not something that people are able to do to like keep you out. You know what I mean? Like I truly feel like if you just keep grinding, like if you keep putting work out there, um, right, exactly, Bernardo. Like if you're like, I'm gonna make a comic, I'm gonna put it on Gumroad, I'm gonna advertise it on Twitter and social media, and I'm gonna encourage people to like, I'm gonna try to build an audience, and it's like that stuff is slow going. It's a grind for sure, but like no one can stop you doing that, and you're gonna find your audience eventually. Eventually, Um, the only people who are like truly gatekeepers, are people who are like making decisions about like, you know, like who are we going to put on Spider-Man this month? That stuff like that. Like those people are gatekeepers. Uh we're gonna make these bikes not that blue because it's too close to Spider-Man. Um, maybe like a green. We could keep them yellow. This is the thing, is like we could keep them yellow. Hold on, I'm gonna bring up the original page. Give me 1 second. Let me find it. I when I started and I was breaking in and doing a lot of comics, some of my friends got work, and I was like, I had an expectation that maybe like they're gonna get work and they're gonna get me work, but and like sometimes that happened and sometimes it didn't, and like uh, I don't think that uh, you know, if you go into this is the thing with like gatekeeping. Here's the original page. Uh, we're a lot darker than the original page, but we're gonna work into the light. I just wanted to see what the original vehicles are, kind of like this orange with this yellow. I don't want to go too orange because I do want them uh, to read as like colder, because we're gonna try to do a warm city. Uh, Maybe we can wash them with a yellow. Um, the problem is if you expect, and I'm not saying this is what you're doing at all, but like from my own experience, when I would expect like something from someone, when I would expect to be like rewarded or whatever, like, and then I'd find myself disappointed when I wasn't rewarded, or like something had happened in some kind of way where it like didn't work out for me. I'd be like, oh, fuck these guys, like I'd be like, why do I feel this way? Like this sucks. So instead of like really, really like resenting, like you don't, and this is the other thing. Your friends get work. You don't want to resent them for it, Like I know you're like all competing for like same jobs and stuff, but it's like, I don't know, man. Like, and I'm not saying that this is what you're doing. I'm not saying that. This is just from my own experience when I was like feeling this way. Um, there's like a certain adjustment that you kind of have to make in your brain to kind of get over this stuff. Uh, because otherwise it'll just eat you up. Because it never gets better. It never, like, I still like. I'm gonna catch up on chat in a minute. I still like. Uh, what is it? San Diego Comic Con rolls around, a cool book gets announced. I'm not on this cool book. A friend of mine is on this cool book. I wish I got this cool book. Like that mentality still happens to me, but the thing is that like I'm not going to let that like be like, oh, f my friend, like no, I'm going to be happy for them. Like I don't know. Because it also like self sabotages when you're like angry like that. Like it brings it out in your work and in your relationships and your networking. It's like it's just not good. It's just toxic. Um, and I could feel myself going that direction when I first started doing comics, and I was like, I had to make a conscious decision to be like, whoa, don't do this. Um, for what it's worth, you thought the first comic picture you ever made should have been picked up by Image right away, and in the long term, after getting no callback, I could say they made the right choice by not picking up. Yeah, this is the thing too. Is like I thought the same thing. I was like, man, I don't know why Marvel and DC aren't hiring me. Like, I'm clearly very good at this, and I don't understand why they can't see me. And what I didn't realize is I couldn't see myself. I was not good at self evaluation yet. I couldn't see what was problems with the work. Like, I didn't have enough experience. I didn't do enough to know that like, oh, these things that I'm making are like not up to this caliber. And then even when I broke in and like had my first Marvel work, and like I was like, "Oh, now that I'm in, I'm in." And it was like, "No. No, it wasn't that way. It was like I did my first Marvel work, and then they were like, "All right, see you later." And I was like, "Well," or like the editor like went to another job or something, and I'm like, I want to do comics, you know. He said a pitch to Image. Thought it'd be in comic stores in a few months. Yeah, everyone you met in comics and animation all want to help, but the thing is, talent, work ethic, speed all matter. At the end of the day, wanting to work with people they like, yeah. So there's many artists out there who want to get into big studios, and people making the choice could get anyone they want. So being friendly and open with people who make the calls, yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I'd never like this whole stream is like the reason I do it is because like I want to be as transparent with comics as possible. You know, like I want to be like, hey, this is me and how I make comics and how I color, and you can see it for yourself. Um, because I want to give you the leg up and a place to ask questions in a way where it's easy, in the Discord if you want it like more private over private message even like all that stuff like I want to because like here's the thing at the end of the day making comics is like hard enough than like trying to navigate all the rest of it. And I'm sure people in animation would say the same thing. It's like, dude, I'm gonna make this as easy. Like, if you're gonna show up and do the work and do it well, like, I think that to a degree you get to be like undeniable at that point. Like, if you're showing up, doing the work, and doing it well, it's like, dude, I don't know. um, let me get into this. It used to be the norm that you used to do a book at Image and then get a shot at DC or Marvel. Now it's quite the opposite. Yeah, for sure. Um, I don't even know if there's like a straight path anymore. To be completely honest, like you just gotta like. I mean, like I don't know. I even talked to people like a buddy of mine in Gainesville when I lived there, Gainesville, Florida, was talking about like he talks to editors and they're like yeah we'd love to hire you for stuff and like they were friendly and stuff but I don't know how much work he got out of that like at the end of the day the practicality of it is like they probably have 10 guys they want to hire and two openings and it's like I don't know it's friendly but competitive I don't know. An artist friend told me, hopefully you want to do your early work with few set of eyes on it as possible, so you get into the minor leagues. Yeah. Before jumping into the majors. Yeah. Exactly. Which is why when Mike started tweeting this work that we did in like 2005, I was like, dude, stop, please stop doing this, please, Mike, please, you're killing me. Uh, Man, I would love to do a more structured, like, how to do comic stuff uh, in the future. I have a lot of ideas for it, and I'd love to make a lot of it free. But, whoo boy, like, just having the time to do it is a thing. Like, I don't have time to do the actual comics I want to be working on. I was actually thinking about getting an iPad this year so that I can kind of do some comics on the couch, like with a backlit screen while like Shannon and I are watching TV. Uh, because like I just need to like crank some work out. Like I just need to get it done. Uh, I don't know, but yeah, I have a lot of ideas about like breaking in and that kind of stuff. This is weird 10. All right, Spider-Man, you're a weird dude. We're gonna make this purple as hell. the iPad's helped you so much. I really feel like it will. One of the barriers that I have is the guy who hired you at Starburns Industries said he'd been following your art for years and wanted to work with you, but never had the opportunity because they were booked up. Suddenly, a few slow, lost designers. Suddenly, a show lost a designer and thought of me and contacted you. Yeah, yeah. You really don't know who's watching. Exactly. It's like these things. Like if you just keep grinding the work, it clicks. Like, and it's frustrating too because like I remember hearing that advice when I was like 3 years into doing the work, and people were like, "You're on the fast track. You're on the fast track," and I was like, "It does not feel like the fast track. Like, it feels like I'm stealing dog food for my dog. That's what it feels like." Which statute of limitations is passed on. All right, let's just get that out of the way. Um, but yeah, the iPad's helped you so much just being able to chill and draw pages. Yeah, that's the thing is like, I think that the iPad is going to take away one of the things that um, happens with me is like, I will work on pages and then like I'll print it out and then I'll be like ready to ink and like all the whole process is so formal that I feel like it kind of cripples me a little bit um, in a way where I feel like I'm not as free flowing with my ideas. And if I could just like doodle some dumb crap and like on the iPad late at night and then be like, here you go, Twitter, and then like see what happens, I feel like I could make some, I don't know, some idiotic stuff that maybe people would respond to. That's the plan anyway. Um, 10 years to fully feel like they broke into comics. Yeah, yeah, which seems like forever when you're young. Yeah, that's the thing too. Is like 10 years for me now. Now that I'm 40-ish, 38. uh, I'm like 10 years is nothing. 5 years is nothing. Uh, but when you're that age and you're just like, all I want to do is do this thing, and it feels like everybody is against me. It's incredibly frustrating. Incredibly frustrating. I also feel like it's harder to break in as a penciler than it is, and a writer, I'd say, than it is as a colorist. Because like colorists can kind of adapt to what other people need, like whatever job it is, it's going to need to get colored. It's going to need to be a quick turnaround and blah, blah, blah. So, colorists are kind of like always in demand. And like once somebody knows that like you can quickly turn something around, it's like, oh, they got another thing. Oh, they got another thing. And then that helps you just build in general. Um, Whereas I feel like trying to be a penciler, it's like you do one thing. It's like you can put me on anything. You can put me on like any book in the world, and I'm gonna like do my best to make it look good. And it to a degree is going to largely depend on like you know uh, like I'm gonna do my job well, and if the penciler does their job well, like we got a good book. And I feel like when you're a penciler, it rests on your shoulders a little bit more to like knock it out. You know what I mean? You remember here, it takes most people 10 years. Yeah, I read that already. Keep thinking about when you had time to do that when you were younger and now you don't. This is also the problem that I've had. Gotten back into line work, which you love, but you get so little done. Yeah. So I was like drawing a whole lot and then kind of got out of the habit from the pandemic. And it's been so hard to like get started again. And then it's like I have to find time. And I started kind of taking my health a little more seriously, uh, and started. working out, and now it's like, okay, I walk the dog, and then uh and then I go to the gym, and then that's like 2 hours of my day in the middle of the day, and it's like, shit, man, when do I have time to get everything else done? And I know that you said mom's turn is your handle there, so I'm pretty sure you have a child, which does not help in the time department. Um, but yeah, I feel you on that. And the other thing is too is like when you get older, it's like, well, you know, like I live with Shannon, and we would like to, pay for things in our life together. I can't like do the thing that I did when I got out of college, which would be like, I'm just gonna move in with my dad now and do comics for a year. Like, you know, you also sleep so much now. Yeah, I know. I feel you on that one. Um, it's like I can't be like, hey Shannon, we're moving in with my dad, you know, so that I can do comics and not make any money for a year. And we're going back to stealing dog food. Statute of limitations on that has passed, by the way. Okay, I just want to make that clear. Man, I can't tell. Is the touch on? Touch is off. Okay. Uh, yeah. I need regular sleep. I need to go to the gym. The dog needs to go out on regular walks, you know. And also, as an aside, I also want to spend time with Shannon and like the people in my life and around me. And when I was trying to break in, I was definitely not doing that. I was definitely like focused on comics, and that was it. And it was like, I don't know if that was the most healthy thing either. Um, you decided to try animation when you were 39. Didn't get in until 44. Did a season, went a year without work, finished second show at 46. Age doesn't matter. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I mean, I just know that like it'd be easier for me. That's all. By the way, between the last stream and this stream, my Windows drivers like went freaking bananas, and lost the Wacom. I had to roll back the Wacom drivers to a previous build just to get it to show up. And I feel like the touch is like the sensitivity of the actual brush is like slightly different. I don't know. There's something. There's something going on. There is something going on. Uh, I don't know. Maybe there isn't something. It feels different. Anyway, Windows. Why would they ever update anything? Those monsters. All right, we're gonna start tweaking a lot of the line art here too. But I just want to kind of get. They have like searchlights on the front of their cars. Their hover cars. So maybe we're gonna try to lean into that before they click them on in the second panel. Try to make them noticeable. We'll see. We'll see. It's raining today, and the dog was going nuts. Yeah, this is definitely feeling weird today. Hmm. I keep like making some marks and being like, oh, that feels weird, and then like moving on and it'll feel fine, and then like make another mark and it's like, oh, it's weird again, huh? Trying to do this like maybe the front of the car's light is on kind of thing, like trying to make the what am I saying? I'm trying to like outline the shape a little bit so that it looks a little stronger. We're gonna do the same thing with Spider-Man, but we're gonna try to pop them forward more so than the cars here. I keep saying cars, but they're definitely just like hover motorcycles. I don't know. Uh, Cameo from the dog ears. Oh, hi Kelly. Yeah, she's hanging out. She was going a little nuts today because it started raining. She usually does a round of pup troll around the apartment complex at the end of the night. She did not get to do that this evening, and she definitely was like freaking out. I took her out in the rain, and usually the rain bothers her, but like today, it definitely did not. She just was like going buck wild out there, running as fast as she can, trying to rip my arm off on the leash. Um, Heavy rain there too. Yeah, yeah. What's her least favorite thing to color? Buildings, actually. I hate doing cityscapes. I've made it like a conscious effort to try to get better at cityscapes in the last couple of years. But like, oh man, they are they're tough to crack. This is the problem with cityscapes that I have. In my brain, every city is just this like gray thing. And that's kind of true, kind of. Um, you got to kind of like get the light to be correct on it. Um, you play with the light in the gray and you can kind of make it work, but I don't know. It's tough because it's also like once you do one cityscape, it's tough to add a variety to it. You know what I mean? Very hard to make buildings pop. Yeah. Um, I tried to make it like a point. So, when you identify something that you're like maybe not necessarily great at, um, I try to make it a point to be like, whenever I see somebody making it, buildings being gray and light blue, yeah, yeah. They're just boring. They're just gray. Yeah. So it's like, um, I made it a point to be like anytime I saw anybody doing it well, doing the buildings very very well, uh, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna like mentally save this in my brain because I want to like do something similar or like kind of like decode how they were doing it so I can kind of like adjust my thinking. Um, so I would occasionally save stuff or I'd post stuff into the Discord. Uh, we have a Discord here. The link is down below, and there's a art I found online. Um, oh yeah, Jason Hulk Hoekman in the chat just ordered Chris Schweitzer's book, which I'm also going to order. It looks great. So yeah, people post a bunch of art and stuff in here, and I don't know if there's any on hand of buildings. This one's pretty good. Got a little aqua building in there. Um, I don't know if there's any buildings on hand. Anyway, uh, Taki did some great colors. Yeah, yeah. Murder Inc. Yeah, this is the thing is she really went like, but Gray's realistic, right, right. But heck, realism. Um, that's the thing is like it was hard for my brain to realize heck realism. Just do what you want. Taki on Murder Inc. does like a lot of cool stuff with color, and Yeah, she's really great. Another Oming project, by the way. So yeah, I try to like mentally put those aside. One of the ones that really blew my mind was gosh, I can't even remember what book it was. I'm gonna look it up. It was Megan Wilson colored. I think it's The Wasp. I'm gonna look for it. It was when like Wasp kind of like joined this like STEM all girl team. Yes, it is. And let me see if I can find some pages of buildings. Yeah, so she was doing these pages, and like you see this building, and it's just like green. She's just like leaning into. Let me see if there's any other. Yeah, here's more green buildings. This is like the same scene. Uh, she's doing like some like green and red play in here. Yeah, some like orange. Yeah, she's doing like a gray. She's doing like a green, aqua, orange, green thing going on here because the robot's gray, but he's really kind of a blue. But like, you don't want him like blending into the buildings and stuff, so you got to like jazz it up. And I remember reading this book and being like, man, she just like went for it. Like I would not have the guts to like at the time. I was like, I did not have the guts. I'm trying to find more. I don't know. Can't find any more. But at the time, I didn't have the guts to be like, building's green now. Like, but she was making a like visual language, and that is more important than making a realistic comic book. You know, like she was making the world bend to her terms rather than being crushed by what it quote unquote should be. I don't know if Megan does a lot of comics anymore. She is also a an engineer, so I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen her work in a while. I hope she is still making books though. She does good work. Uh, she as a day job, she did comics for fun, and as a day job, she would climb not you know for money. She would do this. She would climb wind turbines and do maintenance on them. So she'd be like all the way up in the air in like the middle of this field, like terrifying. She showed me a couple of pictures on her cell phone once. Absolutely terrifying. Like could not do that. I have a heights thing, and like, man, fuck no, fuck no. Um, uh, is limit your colors to three and white. You use them all and you get a muddy mess. Yeah, it's easy to get a muddy mess for sure, for sure. I have definitely been there in the muddy mess. We're kind of in a muddy mess with the buildings back here, but I'm trying not to think about that. I'm trying to just like do our own thing for now. We're gonna fix these buildings eventually. Do I have a? I couldn't tell if that was a smudge or a mark from my pen. Um, we're gonna take this other weird green. Yeah, one of the things that I wish that I had known, I wish that they had taught me when I was at Savannah College of Art and Design was um, like making a shoot. I gotta get into the alpha channel. Making a visual language is actually more important than making a realistic drawing. A lot of my early work, I think, was hampered by like, I felt like things had to look a certain way. Um, and it really, you really don't need to live in that space. And actually, when you get out of that space, you start to make some stuff that's like really interesting and really engaging. Um, yeah, I felt like the more I get out of that space, the better my work is personally. Uh, all right, later, Bernardo. I don't know that we're gonna do too much more to this tonight because I'm also starting to get tired. One of the things that I did that I recognize as an adult is recognizing when I am hitting the wall. Like that is a thing. Uh, we're gonna make it night because it's night now. I'm gonna make it night. Um, Dog bumped the mic. She's worried that Shannon is getting some snacks and she might not get some. Uh, yeah, using a limited palette, by the way, is really great exercise. We should do like a limited palette stream one of these days because I usually go ham on the palette in case you can't tell. We gotta push these buildings back. Make them fade into the background. There we go. Putting these like weird headlight things on them. Uh, I guess I made the headlight like the middle of the bike, but I guess it should be like the sides. Like, are these the headlights? I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? It's comics. Uh, is that a custom texture brush? The splatter that I used? Yeah, that's something I made. Um, super easy to make, by the way. I usually use it for stars. I use it for splatter occasionally. Nowadays, you could probably just make your own using a handful of Kyle Webster brushes in Photoshop and then just like define it as a brush. At the time, I had made that brush has to be 15 years old. Uh, I had taken some printer paper and an old toothbrush and some ink and kind of like splattered it a little bit and then scanned it in and made it a brush because I felt like I needed that splatter and I wasn't getting it accurately at the time. Um, yeah, man, that brush is old. I don't know if we're gonna keep this. I'm starting to feel the late night that is blending him in. Maybe even want to, because he's like shocked or whatever, do something like that. Maybe even. that clicky clack. Yeah. You're hearing the clicky clack of my keys. Uh, yeah, you learned to do that in grad school. Yeah. That was a. I don't think anybody. I think I just picked that up from the internet somewhere. It was like how to make a brush. Um, Okay. So I think we've worked it as much as we're going to work it today. I think the goals for tomorrow, not tomorrow, whenever we stream this next, the goals for whenever we stream this next are going to be, um, we're going to start to make these flares work. We got to make the backgrounds start working for us in general. Like, they look okay. They don't look as good as they could look. Um, we're gonna try to get some glow from the street level because usually with any kind of like city stuff, there's like a glow at the street level from like street signs and that's where people are walking around and cars and things like that. So we're gonna try to like lean into that, fix up the buildings, get the whole piece kind of like glowing and working well. We're going to further pop Spider-Man forward from the bikes and stuff and try to make this all kind of like click together. We're gonna make the flares kind of like look a little better. Hopefully, we'll finish it off. We'll see. I think this is maybe one more stream and then we're done. Might be two, but I think it might be one. I think we do it in one. It depends on like how long. Like I said, cities are really hard for me. It depends on how long I'm in here working this cityscape, trying desperately for it to work. It really depends. uh, your digital tools teacher is the colors for DC? Yeah, yeah. Put paint on a toothbrush, scan it, use it as a brush. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Uh, yeah, so I think this is going to be it for us. I think I'm going to save it here. We're not quite done yet. The other thing that we're going to do near the end is start to like really get into colorizing the line art in places. We kind of did a little bit at the end right here. I'm gonna try to rope this palette in a little bit better too. Like it's kind of all over the place. We've got like this blues and purples and greens and oranges and it's a little extra. We're gonna try to rein it in. Um, I think it's gonna come together when we start to like work the backgrounds a little more. Yeah. So 2 days we're gonna be doing Klonoa 2. Me and the Boyks are gonna be streaming it. Um, you didn't catch the last 30 seconds of that because of an ad. Twitch is running ads over me. Bullshit. I specifically don't want that. Um, I was going to say that in the last 30 seconds, I'm like, we're going to try to make the backgrounds work. We're also going to try to colorize some of the line art and try to work depth a little bit better because right now it's kind of like folding in on itself. So we're going to try to rein in the palette a little bit. We'll work on depth and try to uh, finish off this page. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if I like the purple on Spider-Man. We might kick it back to red. We might make him red. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. That's for future Nick to figure out. Um, yeah, so we're playing Klonoa in a couple of days with the Boyks. I hope you tune in for that. It's going to be a fun game. And we'll try to do more Spider-Man next week. So if you're here for the art streams, see you next week. If you want to watch some games, see you in 2 days. Thanks for hanging out. Keep making comics.